All right. Moving on, we have the RIS II for the M4A1. So now I gotta hate on the Daniel defense rails. All right. So these are the best rails on the market. Best rails on the market if you are mounting a underbarrel attachment, because they are kind of a tri-rail. So if we zoom in on this guy just a little bit, you'll notice that there are some bolts going through the rail, and then you take those bolts out and the bottom part drops out so that you can mount a underbarrel attachment. So while you might think that you have the rigidity of a quad rail, you don't, right? Because the only interconnective tissue between the bottom and the side sections is these two little bolts on either side. So it's probably better than the Defense RIS M5. Talking about the lockup, you have 6 bolts, 2 from the back on each side, 1 from the front on each side, that clamp down on a piece that goes around the barrel nut, not the barrel nut itself. So I don't actually love it all that much. So for instance, the barrel nut you time down, it has a little ring around it that the gas tube goes through. It's not attached to the barrel nut. And then that is what you clamp the actual rail down onto. So again, it's designed to be used with an underbarrel attachment. Since I'm not cool enough currently to have an underbarrel attachment, I would never choose it over almost any other quad rail on the market.
So when are you going to get a 37mm flare launcher as an underbarrel attachment?
Well, because I have to form one a destructive device, don't I? Because I could form
for a 37mm flare launcher. That is, no, you don't.
No. But if I wanted to get a 40, I would just have to form one at the NFA and have it a registered destructive device.
Right, but you can with the 37s, they're all flares. None of them are destructive devices. So
now that that would be a cool video. Now the other problem that I have with the
hey, Chad, if I'm wrong, let me know.
Is the wrist rails are $500. They are $500. I think they are currently one of the most expensive rails on the market. I'm sure there's some custom rails out there that are more, but the wrist rails are very, very expensive. And I am a certified poor, so I think it's a little ridiculous. Now, we'll go ahead and talk about the RIS III as well. So the RIS III is the RIS II, but with M-LOK instead. So basically everything's the same. So it's still a 3-piece design. So you have this back collar that bolts down onto the handguard. You have a piece underneath that and the barrel nut, of course. Then you have the 2 bolts come out, and then the bottom of the handguard drops out so that you can mount an underbarrel attachment. Now, M-LOK versus quad, you save a whopping 1 ounce, a single ounce between the quad rail version and the M-LOK version.
How much is a beefy barrel nut?
It's a steel barrel nut, but it's not that big. If you look at the wrist rail, there is a lot of material there. It is very, very thick. So most of it's honestly aluminum. So I want to say, if we scroll down here, the weight of the RIS II, or the RIS III, sorry, is 16.61 ounces for the 12.5-inch version. And on the RIS II, sorry, the quad rail version is 17.7. So you save 1.1 ounces between the 2 and the 3. And they're both on the heavier side to begin with. Not that it's that big of a deal. They're like 2 ounces heavier, 3 ounces heavier than a different one. And again, you might think that they're super rigid, but because there's literally just 2 bolts holding in that bottom rail, there's no connective tissue on this bottom rail, right? There's just a little bolt that threads in here and a little bolt that threads in here. And that's the only contact that those sections actually have. Because again, they're designed. No, Helix. That's for 12. Both of those are for the 12.5-inch version. Both of those weights are for the 12.5-inch version. Yeah, so for me, man, the wrist rails, if we took price and weight and design out of the equation, they would be a little higher, but they're just not my favorite, you know? So like, they're definitely better than Arrow. Oof, would I rather have a UTG Pro quad rail that's lighter, that has basically the same lockup, because again, it's 2 pieces of steel and 4 pieces of steel bolting it together, has basically the exact same lockup design, is about 2 ounces lighter. Honestly, the UTG quad rail is actually lighter than the RIS-3 rail, M-LOK rail. So yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair for it. Now the machining on it is much nicer, of course, but yeah, not a fan of the RIS-2 or RIS-3. M203, whatever it is, sir, whatever. Yeah, so Charming Mander says the RIS is some of the most tested and bomb-proof rails on the market. I think there is some confusion between things being tested and being bomb-proof, right? Because if we go back far enough, you can pick something that was used for like 50 years and be like, oh, but it was used for 50 years, therefore it's the best thing ever. I just don't think so, right?
It just means that Daniel Defense did enough of the
right.
risk.
It's like the M4 or the HK416 has contracts all over the world. Therefore, it has to be fantastic, right? It has no design flaws whatsoever. It's like, well, I would rather have, you know, a $1,200 Colt M4 versus a $4,000 HK416, right? That's just me personally, right? Because I think one system is better than the other. I think the HK416 tried to solve a few issues by creating 5 more. Right. So just because something is field tested and used quite a bit doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect. Yeah. And again, if you're looking for that M203 capability, fantastic. Best rail on the market. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if you're just posting stuff on Instagram, I think it's kind of a waste of $500 for sure.